He's Kevin Harlan, play-by-play voice for NBA on TNT, NFL on CBS, and Monday Night Football on Westwood One. He'll be in the booth this Sunday. Jets and the Colts. Last Sunday, he had Steelers-Titans, that's Week 4. Is that right, Todd? He did Baltimore and Houston.
Baltimore-Houston was Week 2.
Oh, okay. So we're already getting ahead to Week 4. I only needed this week. I didn't need Week 4.
I'd just like to give you more information than you need and confuse you.
Let's bring in Kevin Harlan. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, Dan. How are you? Good morning.
Oh, we're just trying to deal with a non-professional staff here. We do it as well as anybody here.
Well, I'm a long-time listener, so I know all the personalities and love your show, so it's fun to be on.
How often do you get recognized by your voice?
More than when people see me, like if I'm in a line and ordering food, or if I'm talking to my kids as we're walking, or my wife or whatever, and they may hear it and they'll say, "Hey, I know that voice. You're," and they don't know, but they know it. So that's kind of fun. Not really. I know. It's something that kind of follows us all in the business. I'm sure, just like you talk and people know your voice instantly. But they see you as well, and they don't see us as much because it's on radio on Monday night, and then we're just on for such a short time when we make our opens on TNT and CBS, so it's not as common. But voice, yes, sometimes people will know.
I had a woman, an operator, and I was calling for a phone number, and the woman paused. The operator paused, and she said, "Say something again." And I said, so I said, "I need the number." And then she goes, "I go to bed with you." And I go, "What?" And she said, my boyfriend, you're on TV. My boyfriend has, wait, what show are you on? I said, SportsCenter. She goes, "My boyfriend you work at night." And I go, "Yes." And then we got done, and then she hung up. I didn't even get the phone number from her when I was asking her for it. So I get it sometimes, but you're right. I've been on TV, or at least my face has, for a long time. And but people will hear the voice sometimes and go, "Oh, it's Mr. SportsCenter." They may not know my name. I'm just like, "Oh, you're Mr. SportsCenter there."
Well, it's instantly recognizable. I got to ask you a question, though, because I've thought this for a long time, and I thought maybe we'd cross paths, and I'd ask you in person. I mentioned this to Todd when we're texting back and forth, but did you listen a lot to Larry King and his interview style by chance when you were a younger broadcaster and getting your place in the business? I say this because, and I'm not trying to deter the conversation here, but your questions and your pacing and all that. The best I had ever heard in news was Larry King. I thought his interviewing style was great. And then I started listening to you religiously for, I don't know how many years you've been doing the radio show, and I thought this is even better than King, because your personality is a little bit more warm, and Larry, of course, was more directed on news topics and serious matters. And I don't know, I see a parallel there, but I'm just curious to see if you had listened a lot to him when you were growing up and becoming the broadcaster that you are.
I would listen to Larry. He was doing overnights with his talk show, and I would
a mutual.
Yeah, and I was doing morning drive radio on a rock and roll station, and I would be coming in around 4:30, and then I would hear Larry usually about for 40 minutes or so. And what I always remembered was like the curiosity that you have. Anybody who interviews, be a good listener, but be curious and care about what somebody's answers are. That's really the most important things that I teach. I teach my broadcasting students, and Larry has been at the forefront of that for many, many, many decades. And there are a lot of people who are really good at it, but when people go, "Boy, you ask great questions," and I always say it's not a great question unless it solicits a great answer. That's what makes for a great interview. And I always tell broadcasters, ask a question that's open-ended, get somebody talking back to you, because that's what people are tuning in to hear, not how great your question is. But thank you for that compliment. Who did you look up to when you wanted to be a play-by-play voice?
the first voice I remember when I was about 8, 9 years old was Facenda's on NFL Films. And then I, really listened to race. I grew up in Green Bay. My dad was with the Packers for almost 4 decades. And so living there, football was intense.
Ray Scott.
And Ray Scott, yes. And some other voices, like I'd go to bed at night and listen on WCFL in Chicago, Jim Durham doing the Bulls, and Joe Tate on 3WE do the Cavs. The two voices that I probably admire the most, aside from Facenda, Scott, and Summerall. Summerall's voice to me was great, and Don Criqui was Chuck Thompson out of Baltimore, and Jim Simpson at later ESPN, but initially at NBC.
Yeah.
And those were I would tape them on my cassette recorder when I was just a kid, and fall asleep with that playing underneath my pillow at night, and would listen to their cadence and their calls. And then as I was, just getting in the business when I was like 13, 14, I tried to mimic them. But I would use the array of voices. Like I'd spend 10 minutes trying to sound like Jim Simpson, and 10 minutes trying to sound like Chuck Thompson or Jim Durham or Pat Summerall. And I always tell kids that ask me about voice and presentation and delivery, I say, you need a roadmap. You don't want to reinvent the wheel. You need a roadmap. And what those voices and trying to sound like as you listen to all the different things, the tonality and how they move through a sentence and a call, is you kind of condition the muscles in your voice to kind of exude that. Then you get off on your own road and you sound like you're going to sound. But those are the voices I hear in my head. I hear Chuck Thompson, Simpson, Summerall, and Facenda. Those are the voices I listen to. When I leave my hotel room for CBS every morning, going out to the stadium for our Sunday broadcast, I'll play the John Facenda, "The Autumn Wind is a Raider," because I just feel like, first of all, I'm lucky enough to be in the NFL. I'm living a dream every time I step in an NFL broadcast booth. And I think about the appreciation I have for guys like him that probably sent many broadcasters into the business, listening to his delivery and voice and cadence and just what he meant really to kind of igniting the NFL and the majesty of it and everything else. So it's kind of like a little habit I get into, and it's something I've kind of stuck with every year I've been at CBS and before that at Fox.
I remember when the Raiders played the Redskins, and this was Joe Theismann, and Jack Squirek was the linebacker for the Raiders who had an interception. And John Facenda had that line, "The silver and black clad masters of intimidation nearly took Joe Theismann's head off." And then you had that 1812 overture, and I went, "Oh, you got me." "The silver and black clad masters of intimidation nearly took Joe Theismann's head off." God, I love that.
I've got a very short Facenda story. When I was in college, I was producing the Kansas City Chiefs radio network pregame, halftime, postgame shows all across the Midwest. And we had this 3-hour pregame show, and I wrote Facenda at NFL Films. I was about 19 years old. And I wrote Facenda at NFL Films, and I asked him, would you mind reading this intro to our broadcast and the outro? Would you mind doing just a couple of, like 25 seconds long each? I don't know what you charge, but it would mean a lot to us. And about a week later, I get this phone call in my fraternity house at the University of Kansas. And, "Kevin, this is John Facenda calling." And I go, "Oh, my God." And he says, "Would you mind if I rearranged this one sentence?" And I said, "You do whatever you want to do. I'm just so thankful you'll do it." So I get the reel-to-reel tape about a week after that. And I'm listening to it, but they have all of his, outtakes and it's just raw tape. And finally he gets it right, the one that he liked, the version that he recorded. And at the end of it, there was this pause. And I don't know if Steve Sable was on the other side of the glass, but he said after this long pause, now that's a horse that I can ride. And I just love that. I just love that story, and I still have the tape of him saying that raw tape. So
that's great.
Facenda to me was the voice of the NFL.
Is he in the Hall of Fame?
That's a good question. With Joe just going in, I start thinking about that, and I texted Joe last week after that announcement, and of course, he just looks up to his dad and thinks his dad hung the moon, and rightly so. That was a wonderful relationship between father and son, and the fact that the son has almost become more popular than the father. And as you know, Jack Buck in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, 90s was like the voice of sports in this country with so many sports covered, football, baseball, everything else. So, but that Pete Rozelle Award is one coveted by every broadcaster. If Facenda is not in, I would be shocked. I know the Sables are in, Ed and Steve.
Yeah, that took a while, though, for them to get in, which is a shame. But, I mean, Paulie, would you check and see? I don't think John Facenda is in the Hall of Fame, but I mean, his contributions with those, those highlights, I mean, that he should be in there in the Hall of Fame. We're talking to Kevin Harlan, play-by-play voice for NBA on TNT. NFL and CBS, he's got the Jets and the Colts this Sunday. Yeah, let me see you make that sound like an interesting game. Good luck with that, Kevin. No crowd noise. You're going to have to really ratchet it up there a little bit. There.
I know. But those are the great challenges. You've done play-by-play. You know what that's like. Sometimes you get we had a great game going in last week, and it really wasn't much of a game. Baltimore at Houston. We think, two great young quarterbacks, and only Lamar Jackson really was the one that made a dent. And then this week we got this. Next week, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, which might be pretty good, at least on paper. So you never know what you're going to get. Actually, the Raider-New Orleans game we did in Vegas a couple nights ago, that turned out to be a terrific game with the Raiders looking really good. So you never know what you're going to get. You just always go in, as you know, as prepared as possible and do the best job you can.
All right, we have a contest here, and it's called the Kevin Harlan game. So it's good that we have you on with us for the Kevin Harlan game. So like if Joe Buck was on, it would be really odd to do the Kevin Harlan game.
It would, yeah. Joe wouldn't do it.
Okay, so you and Todd are going to have some calls, some play-by-play calls, and then the audience has to figure out, is it Kevin Harlan making this call or Todd Fritz? Now, we don't know who's going to go first, so contestant number one, you may approach the microphone with your play-by-play call.
Jason Tatum from the corner. He buries the three, and the Celtics take a double-digit lead. Eric Spoelstra will gather the troops here and try to stop the bleeding. We step away briefly. This is the NBA on TNT.
All right. Contestant number two.
All right, Tatum from the corner. He buries the three, and the Celtics take a double-digit lead. Spoelstra will gather the troops here and try to stop the bleeding as we step away. This is the NBA on TNT.
Okay. I can't tell the difference right now. Round two.
The false start makes it 3rd and 8 now for the Seahawks, just inside their own 15. Wilson the snap, drops back to throw, complete to DK Metcalf across the 30 and steps out of bounds at the 34. It's a first down for the Seahawks.
Okay, contestant number two.
The false start makes it a 3rd and 8 for Seattle, just inside their own 15. Wilson back to pass, complete to DK Metcalf across the 30, out of bounds at the 34. That's a first down for the Seahawks.
Okay, I'm going to need one more because I can't really determine who is Kevin Harlan. Final round here to decide the Kevin Harlan game.
If you're just joining us, Patrick Mahomes is at it once again. The Chiefs trailed by 20 at one point. Now they're down just 4 with under a minute to go. The single setback, Edwards-Helaire. Mahomes rolls back. He's got Travis Kelce in the back corner. Both feet in. Touchdown, Kansas City.
Wow, that was a great call, Kev. I mean, I'm not sure who made that call. Here's the final call.
If you're just joining us, Mahomes is at it again. Chiefs trail by 20 now. They're down just 4 with under a minute to go. The single back is Edwards-Helaire. Mahomes rolls right. He's got Kelce in the back corner. Both feet in. Touchdown. The Chiefs have scored.
I don't know. It felt like the voice that did the first version of that touchdown pass. Who was Todd? Can you tell me who was You and who was Kevin there?
Okay, on the first one, which was the Celtics with Jason Tatum, I went.
No, Todd. Todd, I know.
Oh, you're being a wise guy. Oh, you just totally set me up.
Of who it really was.
I would hope that would be very clear who Kevin Harlan is and who Fritzy from the Dan Patrick Show is. I was so proud of my impersonation. I thought for a second there you needed me to clarify.
Kevin, if you ever miss a game and you need somebody to fill in for you and be you, then Todd Fritz is your guy.
I'll definitely make that call, and I'll tell the people at CBS he's ready to go, willing and ready to go.
So you sure we didn't have to let you know who was Kevin's voice?
No.
Positive you knew who.
Okay. I was able to. I mean, I could have let the mystery linger forever, but I just thought I got to be fair to the audience and let them know. I just do. Kevin, you're a great sport. Safe travels. Have fun with the Jets and the Colts this Sunday at 4 Eastern on CBS.
My privilege, Dan. Thank you, and thanks to your great crew. As I began by saying, I listen all the time and love the show and love all the guys that are a part of it, and it was really fun to be on.
Thank you, Kevin. That's Kevin Harlan. Yeah, at one point I wasn't able to tell the difference between the. I love that Todd actually had to explain. Which,
okay, the first one, I went first. It was yes.
So that was me with the first call.
I know, I got it.
The second one, he went first, and then I went first.
No, I got it. And that was great. Thanks.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Although I will say, that call was better than Kevin's call.
I think it was.
It was. The last one, you were better than Kevin.
I was more excited. I said, touchdown, Kansas City. And he goes, and Kansas City is in for the score. Like, we lost them there for a second.
Yeah. Okay.